like to get started again in the interest of time. The candidates that are before you now are the ones who are running for the contested offices in Lake County. There are the candidates for the county clerk, the county sheriff, and the county treasurer. The same ground rules that were agreed to by the other candidates will apply here. We're waiting for our timekeeper, one of our timekeepers, to come back, but as a reminder, each candidate will have a minute and a half to give an opening statement, and the timekeepers will give you a notice at when you've got 1 minute left. You can see down there when you've got 30 seconds left and when you've got 15 seconds left, and they will hold up a stop sign, which means that you need to stop, and at that point I will cut you off. You will have 1 minute to answer the questions, and you will get 30-second and 15-second warnings for that. The candidates have, again, drawn lots to determine who speaks first. They will take turns in terms of answering the questions, and then the closing statement will be done first by the candidate who gave the opening statement last. So those are the basic rules of how this is going to work. I want to just check to make sure our timekeepers ready. Okay, then we'll get started. The first group of candidates that are for the Lake County Clerk, and Lake County Clerk position is the chief election authority. The county clerk provides a myriad of voter and candidate services and administers Lake County elections in a fair, unbiased, accurate, efficient, and timely manner. The clerk's office also maintains vital records such as birth, marriage, and death, public filings, tax and real estate services, as well as records the Lake County Board proceedings. So those are the functions of the Lake County Clerk. And we have two candidates who are running. They are Janet Kilkelly, who is the Democrat, and Carla and Wyckoff, who is the Republican. And when they drew the cards, Carla Wyckoff will be giving an opening statement first. You have a minute and a half.
Can I test this is working? Thank you. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you tonight. The county clerk's office does have 4 major areas of responsibility: elections, vital records, property tax extensions, and also serves as the official clerk for the Lake County Board. I'd like to tell you my background, which I think qualifies me to become the next Lake County Clerk. For the last 20 years, I have worked in the Lake County State's Attorney's Office, the first 5 years as a criminal prosecutor. The last 15 years, I have been in the civil division, and one of my major responsibilities was to be the legal representative for the Lake County Clerk and the clerk's office, with a major focus on elections and vital records. Prior to that, I spent 16 years working for the American Medical Association in communications, working with the policy-making bodies. I spent 4 years in Washington, D.C. as a lobbyist, and in my last responsibility, I headed a division and managed staff and a budget. I have a degree in journalism, an MBA from Northwestern, and my law degree is from Loyola. And I think all of those things combined give me a unique experience to be able to serve as the next county clerk.
Thank you. Janet Kilkelly, you have a minute and a half for an opening statement.
You know, I'm a lot like you. I care about Lake County. Now, I come from the largest and most diverse community in Lake County, Waukegan, Illinois. I'm born and bred, and I am prepared and ready to serve all of Lake County. I'm Janet Kilkelly, and I'm running to be your next Lake County Clerk. Now, as your county clerk, there's a number of things I'd like to do. But first and foremost, be assured I will protect your right to vote. Everyone qualified to vote will have that opportunity under my administration. In addition, we need to look at the core competencies of the office. Is there the right software in place for the tax calculations? Is the software in place to protect your vital records? In this day and age of identity theft, that's extremely important. So now, it's been 20 years since there's been a change, and you can have the same old, or you can have me. I'm a breath of fresh air. I have the background to manage the office on a daily basis and for you. So I look forward to representing you as your next Lake County Clerk. So I need your vote on November 4th. And I assure you, you will not regret it.
Thank you. The first question will be answered first by Janet Kilkelly. And it's kind of a two-part question. It is, list the issues not addressed by the long-term current clerk, and what changes do you think need to be made in the clerk's office? You have 1 minute. Okay. List the issues not addressed by the current long-term clerk, and what changes do you think need to be made in the clerk's office?
Okay, so a couple of the issues I think we need to take a look at is that I think that we can improve the website. I think there's a lot of information. I also think that there's information that we don't need there. I don't think that there's any reason that we need to have 20 years of minutes and agendas of the Lake County Board. So now, that's not to say it shouldn't be available, but there are modern archive ways to store that. Right now, we are paying for all that information to be on the website. And I think that's one way we can save money. The other thing is that from what I've heard from a number of communities, especially Beach Park, that there was a problem with the tax calculations on the TIF districts. So that was not going to be addressed. It is now being addressed, and it's going to be the problem and the solution for the next clerk to take care of after November 4th. So those are two things that we actually need to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Carla Wyckoff?
First of all, I would base my activities for change on what I consider a solid foundation of efficiency and transparency in the office. One potential change in the future, if the legislature expands what for this election is a limited election day registration, if after the session the legislature expands that and continues it, it will necessitate a significant change in equipment and systems that we will have to initiate in the clerk's office, and I would want to be prepared for that. We will have to address, certain TIF districts have raised some issues. It's not related to the software. It deals with how the equalized assessed value is calculated, and it's based on an interpretation of the statute, which I would spend a significant amount of time talking to the TIF districts, working with the state's attorney's office, and basing, if there is a change, and I'm not sure that there needs to be, it needs to be based on a change in the legislation.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Carla Wyckoff, and the question is, given that this is a partisan race, how would you ensure that your office would remain nonpartisan while overseeing elections?
That is such an important question, and I'm glad someone asked it. It really is a priority. While we do need to choose how we run, we must run as one of the parties or an independent. But immediately after the election, it does become a nonpartisan office. My obligation, and one that I have fulfilled for the last 20 years in the state's attorney's office, is to simply, I take an oath to comply with the law, and it would be my commitment and my priority to comply with the law, apply it consistently to everyone, and treat everyone fairly, and keep the office as transparent as possible.
Thank you. Janet Kilkelly?
it is so important to be nonpartisan in this office. And I have a background, I believe that it can really fulfill that. I've over 35 years of customer service in the private sector, so I have not been a government employee. In addition to that, I've also served 20 years in public service. I have been 20 years of serving the community in nonpartisan offices. Number one, I've been 13 years a Waukegan Park District Commissioner. So I know that you are not partisan in that. In addition, I've served 5 years for the Waukegan Port Authority as an appointee of appointee of the governor. And I've also spent 4 years as a Waukegan Township trustee. So my service in the community, I know how to treat people, I know what people expect from an office that's heavily administrative, and that I am prepared now to make sure that that office is always nonpartisan and is serving the community.
Thank you. Next question will be answered first by Janet Kilkelly. The question is, Lake County has a significant immigrant population, many of whom are new citizens and new voters, but turnout is often low. As county clerk, how would you reach out to these new voters who have limited experience with our electoral process?
I think that's a great question, and I think we really need to address that. One of my initiatives that I have, and I put it on my website, is to make sure that when the new citizen gets sworn in, to be immediately outside the door to register them to vote. Not only to be there and to register them to vote, to have a mock-up of what you would have to do so that they can become comfortable with that process of our American way. That's the democratic way. So I think that that would really help make sure that these people feel comfortable in the process and are engaged in the process. And I think more education is better than none. So thank you.
Carla Wyckoff.
Yes, that also hits on one of my priorities that I would like to work on if I'm elected, and that is to increase voter turnout, not only for new voters and immigrants, but throughout the county. And several ways that I would approach that is to work through civic organizations, community groups, and it would certainly include organizations that, that new citizens would be associated with, and get them involved in the process, encourage them to become election judges, and teach them how the robust internet system that the clerk's office already has, how they can use that. Another way that I think would be significant help is to work through the schools, particularly the high schools, and I would work with the regional superintendent of schools to increase participation and increase the number of programs in the high schools where we use the students actually as election judges. Because if you teach them in high school, they will continue that good habit of voting.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Carla Wyckoff. The question is, what are your thoughts on same-day voter registration, or election day voter registration?
For this particular election, at the end of the legislative session in June, the legislature did pass an amendment to the election code which extends grace period voter registration up through and including election day. Historically, it ended on Saturday, but now it will extend through the weekend and Monday and Tuesday. But it is only for the 4 permanent polling places in Lake County, which are the 3 largest communities, Waukegan, North Chicago, and Gurnee. So it is the law, and we will be doing it at this election. There will be voter registration at those permanent polling places on election day. And as I mentioned previously, I anticipate that after this election is over, the legislature may very well address that again. They will either extend it into the future or they'll decide not to. And I want to be prepared in the event that they do extend it so that the clerk's office can respond appropriately to this election day activity.
Thank you. Janet Kilkelly.
I think it's terrific. I think whatever we can do to pull the vote out of people is what we need to do. I think to have between 12 to 15% of our population get out and vote is abominable. So if that gets people out, I'm all for it. I mean, there's also other initiatives that I want to do besides same day. And I think that we need to encourage all our young people to get out, you know, to make sure that we start training them when they're in high school, coordinate again with the schools so that they get this idea that they can vote for life. This is something that you do your whole life. So I want to do that with the young people. I want to make sure that we retain our senior citizens. Our senior citizens are in flux right now. They're moving out of their homes, they're going to senior assisted living, and at that time, they don't always think that they change the registration. So I think we need to make sure that there's something in place to go around and check that, to make sure that our seniors, who are our biggest voters, always have that opportunity. I'd also like to make CLC. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Next question will be answered first by Janet Kilkelly. The question is, how will you secure voting data with vote by mail and perhaps with online voting in the near future?
How would I secure data? Well, number one, I am not an insider. So that question is, you have to know what's going on right there at the moment. So I'm not an insider. But what I am bringing to the table is over 35 years of customer service experience. And I also know a little bit about how to, you know, work computers and what have you. We all have that. But I have a good eye. I worked at Abbott. I worked in customer service. I streamlined one of their processes for them. I think that eye that I have is going to be really a good asset to what we can do to protect the records of the clerks.
Could you please repeat the question?
How would you secure voting data with vote by mail and perhaps online voting in the near future?
I don't have a reaction to the online voting because we don't have it yet. We do have, for the first time beginning in July, on July 1st of this year, we have online registration. I think there are about 340 people to date who have registered online. And we do have a very active vote by mail program. In fact, the county clerk's office already has that program in place. I think the clerk's office has already mailed out 22,000 ballots in response to this very active program to encourage people to vote by mail. The clerk's office is required to compile that data, capture it, report it to the state so that the parties, the political parties and the candidates can use it. It's already a very robust, active program, and I'm sure it will continue in the future. We've seen an enormous increase in that activity in this election alone.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Carla Wyckoff. The question is, would it ever be possible to split election judge responsibilities into 2 shifts over the long election day?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I have a good answer for it, but I will say that the clerk's office relies on probably about 1,600 volunteers around the county to serve as election judges and site managers, and we could not have a voting system without it. We rely on them. The clerk's office spends a lot of time training them and keeping them updated on all of the changes. I certainly would entertain the notion of splitting it. I would have to look at how they would be the most effective and the most consistent in applying a lot of the technical requirements that happen on election day. As the election code gets more and more complex, and as we may have registration in the polling places along with voting, we may have to continue with people continuing for the entire day. I don't know.
Thank you. Janet Kilkelly?
I'm not sure that 2 shifts is really necessary, to tell you the truth. I've been meeting so many election judges out there. They're number one, they're concerned about who's going to be next, and I assure them it'll be me. But they don't have a concern about the 12-hour days or 14-hour days. all seem to embrace it and are satisfied with it. Nobody has complained about being there for the long day. They just know it's part of the process. And they're really, what can I say? They really enjoy being part of the election day. I've never seen such a more energetic crowd than the election judges. They're proud to say what they are, and they look forward to it. And I tell them I look forward to working with them as well.
Okay, we're getting to the point where we need to do closing statements, and but there was another question that I think merits answering, so I'll ask it, and then we'll go to closing statements. The question is, do you have any ideas on how to increase voter turnout? And that will be answered by Janet Kilkelly first.
We kind of touched a little bit about this before, but I do have a number of initiatives. I have initiatives for young voters. Those are the ones that are in high school. I'd like them to, number one, I'd like to sponsor a poster contest among all the high schools in Lake County through the art departments and award a $1,000 scholarship to the school who has the winning poster. And that poster then will be used, of course the $1,000 is privately funded. The poster will be used for promoting voting and promoting registration in the high schools. So I think that's a terrific way to utilize two things, being a civic servant and also the art department. I also want to make sure that perhaps the other initiative would be to have a registration drive. Make sure everybody at the high schools, there's somebody there who can register the students, and then to do a contest among them, just kind of like a little nice competition.
Thank you. Carla Wyckoff.
Janet and I agree on certainly important aspects of this. Although the Lake County Clerk by statute does not specifically have the authority to increase voter turnout, I think it's a very important part of that position to use that office in every possible way in the community and with any number of organizations to help increase all sorts of election participation, voting, election judges, and also a significant emphasis on working with students in the high schools. As I mentioned before, there's already a program to use high school students as election judges, and several schools participate, and it's very successful. They're excellent, and I would like to see that expanded. I would like to work with the regional superintendent of schools and work on election day becoming an in-service day so that students and teachers alike would be freer to participate, to vote, to serve as judges.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll now move to our 1-minute closing statements, and since Carla Wyckoff gave the first opening statement, Janet Kilkelly will give the first closing statement. You have 1 minute.
John F. Kennedy once said, things don't happen. Things are made to happen. And it's up to each and every one of us here to make this change in the clerk's office happen. Now, I'm going to protect your vote. I have a number of initiatives I want to do. I'm going to make sure that the office is run efficiently and effectively. As I said, I am not an insider. I'm bringing in a breath of fresh air. I'm coming in with new eyes, and I'm looking forward to representing everyone. I have the 20 years of public service behind me. I know how to deal with boards. So I'm asking you for your vote on November 4th. Janet Kilkelly as your next Lake County Clerk. Thank you so much.
Carla Wyckoff.
I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you, and I thank the organizations again for providing this forum, because along with the responsibility to vote, we also have the responsibility to educate ourselves and learn about the candidates and the issues that are key to the election. So again, I appreciate this. I have told you about some of my technical and legal qualifications. I think if you talk to people who have worked with me in the last 20 years, they will attest to both my character and my work ethic. I think I have the unique skills and ability to serve as the next county clerk, to continue a tradition of excellence that has been in that office, and also to be prepared for what will be challenges in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give a hand to our candidates.